So we've had some issues with our son Matthew regarding his behaviour. So I'm going to be talking about that today. So if you are new here, I do, as videos about our adventures like as a family. But in the past, I have done a lot of videos to do with autism and like ADHD, global development and that. And the reason I started this channel was to really kind of like to talk about these issues and to share like our life experiences as well, and like day trips out and our holidays and that, and what it's like having a family with additional needs and how we kind of cope as well, like as a family. So Matthew is age, I'm suffering from hay fever, age 7.5. He will be like 8 at the end of July, the same as his sister. So his sister has a undiagnosed like ADHD. She also has global development like Matthew. So hers is a little bit different, where Matthew, he can't speak, he's non-verbal, non-speaking, and Rebecca's very chatty. She goes to a mainstream school, where Matthew goes to a special needs school. So today is all about like autism, about behaviour, about changes and that, and just in general kind of talking about like autism. And if you are new, maybe you think that your child has autism, then watch this video because it may be useful, and I'll put some other videos which I think will be useful at the end of this video. So a few weeks ago, Matthew, probably about like 7 weeks ago, perfectly fine, was it a happy boy and that, and then around about a week or two later, he began to be a bit oversensitive. He didn't want to do that much, he got upset a lot, and we don't know why this was. We think it could have been because he had a cold, and then he had this cough, and that's the reason on why. So anyway, we thought it would just go, because normally, once the cold and the cough went, we thought that the behaviour would go as well. However, it didn't. I'll talk about his behaviour like in a moment, but my kind of background is working with children and like adults with autism and learning disabilities, and I've done that for a very long time, and then I had like my kids, and I gave that up until, what was it, I knew something was not right with Matthew. He wasn't developing like his twin sister, and so looking at the signs, I knew myself that he could have autism at around about like 18 months, because he started to push away his food. He got very, very fussy. And now he will only eat like toast, breadsticks, crisps, some biscuits, but not like all. The fruit bars, we can get, they're very like specific. So yeah, Matthew was diagnosed when he was 3, but of course we knew more that before, and he went to a mainstream nursery and with his sister, but when it came to going to like a school, I wanted him to go to the local special needs one, just because I knew that he wouldn't cope. Children like Matthew, they find it very hard to cope in large groups and that. So a large classroom with lots of kids, 30 kids, even if it was 15, he would find it very, very hard. So that's why he's at a special needs school, and we did have to fight for that. So if you have a child you think is autistic, get him or her diagnosed right away. And if you think, it depends on their needs, like without sounding too bad, for a lot of parents who've got children who can talk, and they don't show all the time their autistic, habits and behaviours, and that they're likely to end up in a mainstream like a school, because Matthew's needs were so high, and that he couldn't walk until he was like 3. He basically couldn't cope in mainstream, and I knew that, and I was quite determined to not allow him to go to a mainstream like a school, because I knew from past experiences that children like Matthew who are non-verbal won't be able to cope, where in a small classroom with other children like Matthew, the teachers, the TAs, and that they can work with them on a one-to-one basis, and it's much more better. So moving to say Matthew now, who is 7.5, and with all the changes, he's going through a developmental change. So literally, it was from his cold and cough we found these behaviours, and that was biting and pinching. He started to pinch a lot more, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And then one day he was at his nanny's, and my mum rang me to say, can you come and get him, because he's not settling, he's very upset, he's trying to pinch us and bite us. And so yeah, I got in the car and went. By the time I got to nanny's, basically Matthew had calmed down and he was absolutely fine. And this is the thing with kind of meltdowns, is sometimes we don't know the reason on why a child will have a meltdown. I mean, if you look online and you search meltdowns like autism, or the meaning of it, there's lots of different say versions in that, and basically it's a uncontrollable. So a autistic meltdown is a intense response to a overwhelming sensory or emotional sim. So it is a complete loss of behavioural control. So it's not like a tantrum where they want something and they can't have it because you said no, and they're having a tantrum. With a meltdown, it's usually to do with sensory, or they are very emotional and they don't know how to deal with it, and that. And it says here that it is a complete loss of behavioural control. Autistic meltdowns are involuntary responses to the nervous system overload. They are not behavioural, but a physical, a manufactural or neurobiological, reaction. A autistic meltdown can look like a temper tantrum, but it can be more intense. Now, this is very important. In developing a autistic person with repetitive body movement, so simming, so like a lot of children will rock, Matthew will bounce during the meltdown, and this may increase their level of anxiety. So I think, to be honest, when Matthew is having a meltdown, and that he will bounce, but then he will also, if you are in his way, he will now bite you and pinch you. And so it's that frustration. I can see it in his eyes, he's frustrated about something and we don't know what. And because he can't tell us, it's very frustrating. And so he can just lose control. And that's what a few weeks ago he did. He lost control. He was all over the place, bless him. And we just said, okay, he's not going to a nannies and grandpas. You know, I can't put my parents through that. So there's lots of, kind of ways that you can help. So I think, what was it, for a lot of children and like say young people, having that, calm approach. So it's very, very hard when you are a parent, because if you are stressed, they can feel that. And I think it's something that we are naturally wanting to go and hug them and just, want to, comfort them. And I know for me, it's been very, very upsetting. Try not to get upset now. It's been very upsetting to see him go through this, because it's not nice. And Monday he bit my arm when I was putting his shoes and socks on. Well, I dress him, and as I'm sitting down, doing his socks, I got his socks on, one of the shoes was the zip wasn't undoing, and I kind of knew what was going to, he was getting more and more intense on the bed and bouncing. And basically he got annoyed for waiting. Now, was that behaviour, what was it, annoyed at me that I couldn't undo the shoe and I should have gone away and done it? Or was it because we've had this before and he's been absolutely fine? Or was it because he was increasingly just getting overwhelmed by, he had his mobile phone, he's watching that. We thought it could have been that. But no. In the past, Matthew has been very calm, and even when he hasn't, we've been able to, reassure him and that. So you can offer calm and reassurance, but sometimes talking to some autistic children when they are in that moment, having an meltdown, that it might be too intense, and talking can make it worse. I know for Matthew it does. And so I have to, kind of see the moment and, to see. Anyway, on Monday, he bit my arm, and it was quite kind of deep. He kind of bit me here because he came down. So I was sat on the floor and he came down and he was trying to grab me and that. And I was like, no, thank you. That's what they use up, kind of like sore and that. No, Matthew's okay. Look, Mummy's got the shoe. We're going to go and that. And we think that he didn't want to go to school, and that's why. But at that point, I wouldn't say that he was in full meltdown. It was just that he was getting a bit stressed and that. So, and it really did hurt. I've been bitten before by, children with autism, and it's never nice. And we know that most of the time, actually probably 99% of the time, it's down to they are frustrated, they've got communication difficulties. And so, but at the same time, we can't allow this to happen. And I've been reading a lot and watching a lot of videos on this, and I got to the point where I've had to ask my husband to change him, just because it's like, I don't want to be bitten, and that, I'm the mum, who've always been there for Matthew, and that, and it's that thing of sometimes you are a bit too close, and so you just let your guard down. And I think that's what happened on Monday. I let my guard down. I don't want to be on edge with him. Do you know what I mean? It's I don't want to be on edge with my own son. So yeah. There's some tips here about offering sensory aids such as fidget toys, or headphones, or kind of any kind of toys, sensory toys. I found that when they are in the meltdown, sometimes they don't want that. I gave him a chewy, he didn't want that. When he was biting more, we did give him a they called chew a chew buddy, and they're quite big, and he does like that. So I've ordered 2 of those. We've also ordered him a bouncy ball, so a big yoga ball. Well, it's not that big. I need to get a bigger one. But yeah, it's that can be quite good, and I think he needs more like sensory input. So yeah, it's hard work at the moment, and the only rest time I get is like now is when he's at school. So you know, when he goes, it's like 9 till 3:15. So I get that time off, but I also work part-time. So I work in a mainstream as a lunchtime supervisor. And yeah, it's nice and everything, but at the same time, sometimes when he's been getting up very early as well, so he's been getting up at like, yesterday it was 2:10, today it was 4:20. He's been wanting to go out more in like the evening, so he comes home and then he wants to go back out. We take him for a walk, and then he comes in for a little bit, then he wants to go out in the car. And then we went in the car yesterday, and it was kind of that thing. We drove for 45 minutes, and we came back because we needed food and stuff like that. And he wanted to go out again. He wouldn't go out in the back garden on his trampoline at first. He wanted to go back out in the car, clearly communicating that by putting our hand like on the door, but not understanding that he's been out, and that so getting him in from the car to the house was a like big issue. And that I think he's going through this developmental change, which is, no, he wants to do things, but he can't communicate those things. And so we are in the middle, and we are trying to work it out how to communicate. Now there's pecs, there's pictures and stuff like that, but sometimes, you may not have those, like on hand. But when the child doesn't understand verbally what you say, I think those kind of things are important to have. So I do have like some pictures I made for Matthew, and that we are going to be working with a speech and language therapist very soon on communication, and I think that will be good for him, because he needs to kind of tell us like what he wants and what he needs. But also he needs to understand that we can't always go out. And I think that's a problem that we are having at the moment. He's always wanting to go out. And half of me will say, come on then, let's go. But like the other half of me is saying, well, actually, you've been out twice today, Matthew. What was it? Well, actually, if you include like going to school, that's 3 times you've been out. What doesn't he like about being at home? Well, I think he just likes being out and about at the moment, to be honest with you. And he doesn't want to be in his bedroom and that. When we are in the car, he's not really doing anything but like on his phone and looking out the window. I've taken him to the park before. So there's lots of things that I think we need to talk to the speech and language about how we kind of like approach him, and how we need to kind of like encourage him to do other things like at home. So I'm trying to get his room a little bit more, I suppose putting more sensory stuff in there. So, we have got a bubble tree downstairs. So to put that in there, maybe with some lights and other things, you know, having a bouncy ball available, having, you know, other things that he can do. But this all takes time and money. We have actually asked for like support from the school. We think that we can possibly get some like respite, even if it's kind of like for a few hours a week. Because at the moment I don't feel confident with him staying at my parents' house. They are in their 70s, bless them. And no, it's one thing, having, you know, Rebecca, but having Matthew when he's in this kind of way is challenging. It's challenging for us. It's emotional for us, and Darren's doing really well with, you know, him being very kind of strict with him. You know, it's like where I'm a bit more. I think with Matthew, I find it hard to be, you know, like strict, because it's like of his autism, do you know what I mean? But at the same time, I do think it needs to be there. But how do we do that? Like, how do you discipline or no, say no to your child when they don't necessarily understand? So that's a hard one. I mean, with past experiences of working with children like, say, Matthew, you know, we put in place like the now and next, no cars, right, now we are going out for a drive and next we are going home. Okay, we're at home now, so at home now, yeah, and then put the next activity. Maybe having more kind of like a structure to a unstructure, because with Matthew, if school is being very structured and he's liking it, then can we do that at home? You know, can we do that to accommodate his needs and that? But also, you know, we have to think about that. We are like a family. We have our own needs and wants. You know, I want to go out to David Lloyd's to play tennis, you know, on a Monday night. But, you know, sometimes, it's hard because then Darren is left with, you know, Matthew and Rebecca. Rebecca is a bit frightened of, you know, Matthew at the moment because of his behaviour. And sometimes I know Rebecca watches the videos, and I've told her, and I tell her again, that, you know, she doesn't need to be, you know, Sarah Matthew. You know, he's just going through a phrase at the moment whereby he doesn't understand, the social, you know, rules about going out. He doesn't understand his emotions, and it needs to be worked on. And he can't talk, you know, and we need to find a way to help him to communicate his needs and wants. So let me know in the comments, do you have, you know, a autistic child? Do you have, you know, a sibling, you know, who feels this way? How do you deal with it? Let me know in the comments. I think for us, you know, asking for help, we've always said, you know, when we need to ask for help, we will. I'm just about to fill in this assessment needs for family. So that's where basically we put what we need, like as a family. So we need, you know, like time away from Matthew. Matthew needs time away from us to do things. And the reason that we need it is to spend more time with, like, you know, Rebecca, to have some quality time together. And now that might only be like in a week. It could well be that we may have to fund some ourselves. You know, we've already, Darren and I have already talked about maybe, you know, finding someone that he knows to be his, you know, PA to take him out, maybe, or to, you know, sit in while we go out for a date or something, you know. and pay them privately, because social services, the government hasn't got enough money, the council ain't got enough money, and so, you know, parents who can do this are. And I think, no, if you can and if you need that break, that's what you need to do. If you can't, then you're going to be on the waiting list. And when I was in the meeting with his school, we had the education healthcare plan review, and we mainly talk about Matthew's behaviour and how it has changed and his kind of needs and what he's trying to communicate and stuff like that. So we are filling, it's called, I'm just somewhere here, right, it's called the ABC recording chart. And what it is a sheet of paper, and it's got this is what they use at his special needs. So the activity, lesson and location, what happened immediately before the behaviour that may trigger the behaviour, what did the behaviour look like, resolutions or consequences. So what happened directly after the behaviour, how did you respond, and how was the situation resolved? So we've got a few copies of those which I have filled in a number of times, and yeah, basically it's to see his behavioural as a pattern, and I'm fairly confident that at the moment he's trying to say, I don't want to be at home, I want to be out. But there are other times when he's been in and he's not gone to the door, and so I think it's that thing of like, what is it? At the moment it's going out, but like there was a time when he just wanted to stay in as well. So how do we combat that? We don't mind taking him out, but not at like say 4 o'clock in, well, 20 past 4 in the morning. Anyway, I think that's going to be it for this video. We are taking Matthew out tomorrow. We're going to somewhere, so stay tuned for that video. You will find out about that very soon. We are going to take Rebecca to Nanny's tonight. Matthew's going to come with us for that, you know, long drive, have a swing, have a bounce on the trampoline, and then we'll come home a bit later. I'm hoping to go and play pickleball tonight. I think it's so important that, like, us parents, we have that time to do things, and you know, I love spending time with Matthew, but at the moment it's very hard, because it's like, you know, we used to just, you know, play, you know, not rough play, but like tickle and stuff like that. And it's hard to do that now when, you know, he can change just like that. And so we need like to, you know, solve this problem. Is it just a developmental change? If you've been through something like this, tell me in the comments. I would love to know. And yeah, thank you for watching today's video, and you can see more videos up here and here, and I'll see you soon.